I saved up 4 months to buy the perfect prom dress, but my stepdad mangled it out of spite. So when my mom saw what he did, she called the police without hesitation. I'm only 17 and not sure if there's any legal action I can take. For some context, I live with my biological mom and her husband since my parents separated and were never married. I originally lived with my dad from the age of 2. He won custody in the custody battle, but he later lost custody after a severe work accident left him paralyzed, making it impossible for him to take care of me. I still see him every weekend and spend the entire summer with him. When I was 10, I moved in with my mom, her husband, and their 2 sons, 1 stepbrother and 1 half-brother. Ever since then, my stepdad has made it clear, both directly and indirectly, that I've disrupted their lives by re-entering my mother's life because I'm just another person they have to take care of. I've been working since 10th grade and have been saving up for my senior year in college since last year with the money for my job. My mom and her husband made it clear that my mom would only help with the basics like my graduation cap and gown, senior dues, and senior class photo. Everything else, like prom, I'd have to pay for myself. I earn about $400 every 2 weeks for my job, which I've been saving entirely, and I make extra money by doing nails, around $100 a week plus tips, which I use for spending money. Since it's my senior year and the last year of high school, I wanted to go all out for prom, so I set an $800 budget for my prom dress. So my prom is in April and I wanted to get my dress early since the really cute ones sell out fast. But in Alicante, so I went prom dress shopping in December and found a gorgeous dress that cost $890. So it's dark green with a long train, rhinestones embedded into it, and glitter throughout the fabric. So when I first showed my mom and stepdad the dress, they asked how much it was. My mom said she wouldn't pay for a dress that expensive, but I told them it was fine, because I had more than enough money saved up to buy it, and would still have plenty left, $23. 00 to be exact, though only my mom knows that. My mom said I could get the dress and that it was very pretty. However, my stepdad said it was irresponsible and a waste of money, and that I should use it for better things like helping out the family and paying some bills, suggesting I get a cheaper dress for no more than $300. Mind you, both his sons own PS5s and multiple pairs of $200 plus shoes. Long story short, my mom disagreed with him, and I ended up getting the dress. She even contributed $150 toward it. However, ever since then, my stepdad constantly brings up that I should help pay for things around the house since I have so much money to throw away. But my mom always shuts him down, saying that I work hard for my money and that I already help out by paying for Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Hulu bills, while my 18-year-old stepbrother doesn't pay for anything. Last Saturday, we had a huge argument because my stepdad suggested that I should help my stepbrother pay for his prom, to which I firmly said, no. He later called me selfish and said it wasn't fair that I get an expensive outfit while his son doesn't. I guess I responded with some snark saying, that's not my child or my problem. He then tried to complain to my mom, who sided with me, saying that if anything, he should pay for his own son's prom. Well, today I woke up from a nap and noticed my prom dress was missing from my closet. It was right at the front, so I immediately noticed it was gone. I asked my stepdad if he'd seen it since my mom was at work, and he told me with a condescending smile that he was washing it. So I immediately ran downstairs and saw my dress being washed on the heavy-duty cycle. I canceled it right away, but the damage was done. Most of the rhinestones had fallen off, the glitter had washed out, and the entire dress was mangled. So I took one look at it, then threw it in a trash bag and left for my friend's house, taking the dress with me. So I texted my mom and sent her pictures, but I'm currently at my friend's house, lying on her bed. Her parents hung the dress outside to air dry so that my stepdad can't blame them if it was dried in the dryer. So I know he did this to spite me, because he never washes clothes, cooks, or does anything around the house, since he considers himself the man of the house, so there was no reason for him to be washing my dress, even if it needed washing. Is there anything I can do? I realize neither of them can replace it, considering their difficult financial situation. I'll keep you all posted when Mom gets home. So far my stepdad has called twice, but I haven't picked up, and my mom's at work and unable to take calls. Edit. I'm not sure how to add updates, so I'll just include an edit. My mom and I just spoke on the phone, and she's furious and on her way home. My friend, her dad, and I are heading to my house now, and my mom said she was going to call the cops as soon as she finished talking to me, so they might be there by the time I arrive. We've taken pictures, and my uncle, who is my mom's brother, will be over by 8 because I contacted him while he was at work. I've been considering your suggestions about withdrawing my money from my account, and I discussed it with my dad, who told me I could stay with him. Edit/update 2. When I got home, my friend stayed in the car while her dad walked me in, and my stepdad was already gone. However, the police were at the house. As of now, the police said they couldn't really arrest him because it's not like he technically stole anything. It's hard to explain, but basically, they said that because he washed the dress and didn't keep it, it's not considered theft. They suggested I could get a confession and have him pay or take him to small claims court. Also, the dress is non-refundable if damaged, so I can't return it or anything. While explaining everything to my mom, I got flustered and started crying, and she hugged me as I cried and told me that he's going to pay for this. This financial issue has been an ongoing argument, and I think he just pushed her too far this time because she's really angry. I also talked to my uncle, and he's off work and on his way over. Apparently, my uncle and stepdad have a rocky history since my stepdad has mouthed off to him in the past. When I explained what happened, my uncle reassured me that everything would be okay, and if needed, he would buy back the dress before it sells out, so I'll still have it for prom. He does expect my stepdad to pay me back one way or another, so it looks like I'll probably end up with my dress for free. Maybe that's a small victory. I'll likely update more later tonight, but things seem to be heading in the right direction. Edit to clear up any confusion. I pay for the streaming service bills because I really want to watch the shows on those platforms, and my mom works hard but doesn't earn enough to afford those services on top of everything else. So I offered to pay for them so we could have them. She's not the kind of mother who would pick her husband over me, and she always defends me. So my stepdad has never pulled a stunt like this before. He just tries to convince her to control my money and savings, but she's never touched my savings. I feel like that's why they always clash, because he has this mindset that we have all these financial troubles and your daughter could solve them with her savings and you have access to them. My uncle came over and he and my mom had a bit of an argument because he blamed her for enabling my stepdad's behavior by not leaving him, which he thinks is why my stepdad felt comfortable doing what he did. She argued back, saying she's always defended me against him and has never taken any of my money, which is true. We all talked about it for a while, and she revealed that they actually had an argument last night about paying off a car payment. She mentioned how all these bills are wearing her down, and he responded by saying it wouldn't be such a burden if she used my savings and didn't let me spend it on foolishness. She got angry and defensive because he keeps bringing it up. He also pointed out that the $900 I spent on my dress could have covered the car payment for the next 2 months. By the way, he only knows about my savings because he knows how much I get paid and that I've been saving all of it, so we think that's what triggered him to throw my dress in the washer. So my mom and stepdad have been texting back and forth, and he admitted that he washed the dress to teach me a lesson about not spending so much money on something that can be ruined so easily. But he deliberately set the washer to heavy duty, so it's clear he intended to destroy it. So my uncle has offered to replace the dress, so I don't need to worry about not having my special dress. So we called the boutique and explained everything, and they said they could order another dress, though it won't arrive until February 23rd, which is fine. My mom sent my stepdad a long, threatening message basically calling him out. She's really heated right now, so I'm going to try to ask for a screenshot later. She and my dad also talked and decided it would be best if I got my own bank account so that my stepdad can't use the excuse that she has access to my account, which is also great. My mom and I had a discussion about what's going to happen next, and she said she's not sure yet because it's all a bit overwhelming for her. She's seriously considering leaving him, but I guess she doesn't want to talk about that just yet. My stepdad is currently staying at a friend's house. I'll keep updating, and I might have another one tomorrow. So my friend's parents are going to keep the dress at their house, and I'll pick it up tomorrow to have as proof. My uncle has wired me $1,000 for my prom dress, and I'm planning to use the money to replace the dress and buy new shoes. He's quite well off, which is one of the reasons I reached out to him in the first place. I'm going to call the boutique and see if they can reorder the dress, and I'll just pick it up sometime in February. However, we still want my stepdad to pay in some way, and we're working on that. My uncle has also called my other uncles and aunts, with my permission, to vent about the situation, so now most of my mom's side of the family, who all live in Georgia, are aware of what happened. I woke up to a flood of texts expressing sympathy and even some offers of money for prom, which have added up to about $300. So that's a positive outcome. My mom also contacted my step-in-laws, who then spread the news, complete with pictures, and I guess most of them are shocked, except for his mother, who is still buying his excuse that it's just a dress, and it was an accident, despite the evidence. I also got a call from my stepdad's sister, who who expressed sympathy, and through our conversations, I learned that my stepdad has been asking a lot of his family for financial help because for some reason, he's bought so many things on credit that he can't keep up with the payments. My mom called my stepdad for answers, which we recorded, and he's basically trying to blame her, saying that if she hadn't pissed him off last night, he wouldn't have done it. He claimed he was trying to teach me a lesson about being responsible with money, and that he had planned to lecture me afterward. My mom has now broken up with him because he blamed her for caring more about me than him, which is bizarre. This led to an argument where my mom said, "You think I care about her more than you? Well, you're about to see just how much I do." Their relationship had already been rocky because he can't manage money, and this was the final straw for her. So, a lot has happened. First off, we've placed an order for my dress, and it's being shipped now. It should arrive at the boutique by February 23rd, so that's sorted. My stepdad and mom are officially broken up, but my mom isn't sure yet if she'll proceed with the divorce because everything is still so fresh, and lawyers are expensive, and she can't afford it right now. They also have a prenup, so they don't share any assets, and the house is my mom's. It was her dad's house that she inherited. She had a different dad from her siblings, who all share the same father. My stepdad came back with his brother after a while, and tried to make up for everything by buying me a new dress from Macy's that's similar in color and length to the original, but it's very tacky and ugly and looks nothing like the dress I originally had. He then tried to apologize, saying it wasn't his intention to ruin the dress, and that he was just going to wash it to make a point, like, "See, this is why you don't buy things like this." And then he would have bought me another dress. But that explanation makes no sense at all. My uncle also came back to the house after I texted him that my stepdad had returned. So my uncle was at the store when he got my message, and when he arrived, they got into a huge argument. My uncle demanded to know why my stepdad destroyed the dress, but my stepdad said he wasn't going to let anyone walk into his house and start making demands. So my uncle called him a name, and my stepdad told him to say it again. So he did, and they ended up fighting. My stepdad lost the fight and then threatened to call the cops, but we reminded him that he swung first. After that, he went on a rant, cussed us out, and left, taking the dress with him. We're actually planning to follow your advice and take him to small claims court, considering the evidence and the damage. Hopefully we'll come out on top. Right now, my stepdad is staying at his parents' house. For those curious about my brothers, here's an update. My 15-year-old half-brother was at his girlfriend's house since Friday, so he missed all the drama, but he reached out to me today. I love him so much. My 18-year-old stepbrother, on the other hand, has basically taken his dad's side, so there's not much more to say about that. Also, for those who suggested changing the streaming passwords, I've done that, and my mom and I are going to set up a new bank account for me later today. Thanks so much for all the support. I'll keep you updated as we make plans and hopefully get a favorable verdict. Now to the next story. Story 2. My wife overreacts to our daughter's minor injuries, causing strain in our parenting and increasing tension within the family. My 28F wife, 26F Sophia, takes every scratch our daughters, 7 and 5, get extremely seriously. Every bruise, every scraped knee, every cut is an emergency to her. And because they're emergencies to her, they become emergencies to the girls. Not only does this mean it's hard to tell when an injury is actually dangerous. Did she twist her ankle or break it? Is her arm bruised or fractured? But the kids are responding badly to any hurt they feel now. At the mere sight of blood, the 7 starts wailing like she's been stabbed. Even worse, her sister has started intentionally banging her arm into things or falling on concrete if she thinks she's not getting enough attention. Last week, my wife took the oldest one to urgent care because she got a canker sore, and Sophia was convinced it was something more sinister. While she was gone, I had the younger one, who was upset that Sophia had spent so long on her sister and had now taken her to the doctor to get special attention. So she threw herself on the tile floor in front of me and started screaming and holding the wrist she hadn't actually twisted. I'm so tired of all of this, I just let her scream. When I didn't give her the attention she wanted, her screaming in pain turned into sobbing because I wasn't cuddling her and kissing her better and promising her cookies in a late bedtime. I told her I'd be in the den with the cats when she felt like joining us. I felt like a bitch for letting her cry herself out, but she's never going to learn to walk off scooter falls or getting hit with dodgeballs at this rate, and she can't be rewarded for this kind of behavior. It's just not healthy. Eventually, she ran out of tears and came to sit with us, and I let her have a watered-down soda. Well, when Sophia got back with the older kid, who now had the same numbing gel we already had in the cabinet and $200 urgent care bill, our younger daughter told her what happened and now she's furious at me for ignoring something that could have been serious. I told her she's the one making mountains out of molehills and feeding into the actual dangerous behavior. We've been fighting about it all week, and the kids have only been acting up more as a result. I'm so tired of this. Maybe my appendix will burst and I can spend a few nights in the hospital away from this insanity. Relevant comments. OP on if her wife had pepped when she got pregnant and gave birth. Did her wife have any medical trauma? OP? No and no. Both of them were adopted, and to the best of my knowledge, she's never had negative doctor experiences. If she had, it wouldn't make sense to keep dragging the girls in for scratch knees. She's absolutely setting them up for failure, she just refuses to see that. If someone here can convince her to see a therapist, or an ounce of reason related to this specific situation, then they're miracle workers. She's great in almost every other aspect. I love her. But the constant coddling and panicking is getting ridiculous. Did OP and her wife have infertility problems? OP. No, as far as I know, both of us were perfectly healthy reproductively speaking. All pregnancy is dangerous and IVFs usually result in multiples. Increasing the risks or forcing termination of it doesn't take right. And they're ridiculously expensive. A lot of places aren't exactly trustworthy when it comes to ensuring the health of sperm donors, etc. There wasn't a chance in hell I was ever carrying children, so that was out. She never fought to carry them. When we decided we wanted kids, and we were in a place that it was feasible, we looking for agencies and found our girls. OP on the relationship her wife has with their daughters, and if she's overprotective. OP, we've had long talks that always dissolve into arguments over the subject before. As I understand it, she really sees nothing wrong with what she's doing. She wants to make the girls feel like they'll be seen and taken care of, but she's going too far. She does spend time with them regularly. She has an office job and has them alone from 6 p.m. onwards on days when I work. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and she doesn't work on weekends at all. But yes, the younger one has definitely learned that making it look like she's hurt herself, or actually hurting herself, however minor, is a surefire way of getting Madri's attention. So not sure I helped last week. I don't want her thinking Mama doesn't care, but I just could not bring myself to reward her pretending to be hurt. That's an interesting idea. It might help the girls, although I don't see it changing Sophia's behavior much. Update. Wow, my first post got more popular than I was expecting. Not a full update, but a few people were curious, so I thought I'd throw this out there with some of this week's developments and some clarifications. This sub only allows 2 updates, so the next one, if I end up publishing it, probably won't be anytime soon. Stepdad, my 28F, wife 26F, has been making our daughter's injuries worse by treating all of them like an emergency. This has led to the older one 7 to genuinely believe that every injury could be fatal, and the younger one 5 to realize that if she's hurt she gets special things like cookies, candy, extended bedtimes, movies, etc., and is the main source of conflict in our marriage. Clarifications. 1. This is not Munchausen by proxy. Y'all have got to lay off the Hulu Daka series and stop trying to diagnose strangers with serious and sinister medical issues based on one post written by their annoyed spouse. So my wife does not hurt them. She is not poisoning them, or looking for drugs to feed them, or posting all over social media about how great she is, and how lucky the girls are, etc., or trying to scam people out of money, or a Habitat for Humanity house. Sophia is not worrying for the attention of it. She is trying to ensure that they don't feel ignored and neglected, to the point that she takes everything that they say seriously, but she's gone too far, and it is now backfiring. The few people who pointed out that the younger's behavior of faking injuries, or actually giving herself a bruise, could develop into something more serious are correct, however, which is a concern that I also have. 2. Attention. The girls get attention. They get plenty of attention from both of us, so they are not being neglected to the point that they need to injure themselves as a cry for help. For one thing, my older daughter doesn't do that. She is just genuinely convinced that bruises could be internal bleeding, and any bump on the head could be a concussion, which means that I'm going to have to give her the period talk pretty soon, or she's going to think she's dying if she starts early. For another thing, the younger one tends to only do it when she thinks her sister is getting something she wants. Or we said no earlier in the day. They get attention, but they get special attention when they're sick or hurt. Someone in the comments last time, don't remember the name, suggested flipping it to discourage the younger girl's behavior, by essentially taking away fun things and forcing them to rest when they're sick or hurt. A few other people suggest pain charts of some variety, or first aid classes. Those might help with the older one, and Sophia herself. That was probably the most viable advice I got, however well-meaning and true a lot of other stuff was. 3. Therapy right now is not an option. You can suggest it all you want, I can, and have suggested all I want. But as of right now, it will not be happening anytime soon. We had a bad experience with a highly regarded adoption specialist therapist a few years ago that resulted in our older daughter having more issues with her adoption than she did when we started. Issues that we've had to figure out how to manage on our own, because the two therapists we tried after that only compounded and exacerbated those new issues. My daughter would have been better off if she'd never been to therapy in the first place. As a result, my wife has lost almost all of her faith in mental health professionals. Quite frankly, I lost the majority of mine as well. And while I've made mention of it to Sophia, my bigger focus is on getting her to just change this one behavior. 4. Was my wife traumatized as a child by being medically neglected? To the best of my knowledge, no. She doesn't have any long-term health issues, and she was never very involved in any physical and potentially dangerous sports when we were in school. Her family hasn't suffered from very many illnesses or accidents, even during COVID. So while I've driven myself to an emergency dentist before and broken my wrist without even knowing it, the only time she's ever been in a hospital was to pick her dad up from a colonoscopy. So at least before she started taking our daughters in for benign bumps, bruises, and cuts. 5. No, my wife does not have anything postpartum. The actual update. After a couple of other comments brought up how my girls behave away from us, I decided to ask. My wife works a normal 9-5, while I work 3/12s from 6 p.m. to a.m. on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. During the winter they have school and daycare respectively. This winter the younger one will be in kindergarten though, and during the summer they both go to daycare from about 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on my work days and just in the mornings on other days as needed. I do drop-offs and pickups. When I picked them up on Monday, I decided to ask one of the caretakers how the girls had been behaving. She told me they were fine, they bickered sometimes, but there was nothing unusual going on. I asked what happens when they get hurt or feel sick during the day, how they handle it, etc. I didn't tell them about my wife. I didn't want to be telling tales out of or at school. I think she might have thought I was looking for help, which I was technically, because she told me that as soon as a kid falls down, or takes a ball to the face, or anything else, they start the whole interaction by telling them you're okay, and assessing the damage calmly as they approach. Even if the kid is bleeding, they don't react. They say something like, "Wow, that looked kind of scary. I bet it surprised you. Let's see your arms/legs/whatever." She basically wrote me a script. I asked her how my girls reacted to it, and she told me that the older one was a little more sensitive than her peers. She cried easily, and they had to be extra firm with the "you're okays" with her. The younger one she saw a little less. She's in a different age bracket. She only just turned 5, so she's still technically in the pre-K group. But she'd never heard anything about her. I asked what exactly they do if a kid is bleeding or bruised. For bruises, they can sit with a little ice pack for 15 minutes before they need to come back to the ground, unless it's actually serious, and for cuts they get it washed and a band-aid. So nothing exciting as far as I could tell. The fact that we haven't been called into the school to pick up our totally, terribly injured 5-year-old before tells me that she knows she won't get Madri's special treatment at the school. And since I will be the one picking her up if they think she's too sick or something, there's really no point in kicking up too much of a fuss, unless she just wants to hold something cold for a few minutes. Neither of the girls have been hurt or sick this week. We stopped arguing, because I frankly do not have the energy to do so constantly. I'll look into the pain chart and first aid classes and bring up boring damage mitigation soon, once we've both had time to calm down. Additional information from OP, I'm going to put this here, since apparently it needs to be said. I am aware that saying it's okay or you're okay the way the daycare workers do is a good idea. This is what I have been trying to implement for a long time. Even if a child is genuinely hurt, adults need to remain calm to keep the child calm. If an adult is upset, then the already upset kid will become more upset. And if that kid isn't upset, then they will be when they see their parents freaking out. I am not looking for excitement. I genuinely have no idea how you read my post and got that impression. None. If I'm playing checkers, you've started a game of chess. I am trying to end the excitement. When I said nothing exciting in my post, it was not because I don't want to implement something boring. It's because I do. I very much want my kids being hurt to stop being exciting or rewarding. That is the entire point of everything here. Of a week of arguing. Of every other argument before this one. There was no one working up my older daughter. The younger one wasn't getting rewarded. If anything, being hurt at daycare got her essentially a time at an ice pack, or rubbing alcohol in a pad on the back. That is a good thing. That is what I want. OP on communicating with her wife about their daughters on how to react if they got hurt. Topi, I've talked with her a lot about it. It used to start when she was already working up because one of the girls was hurt or something, and I'd try to calm her down and help the girls calm down. She'd be so keyed up that it would turn into a fight fast. So after a while I stopped trying to interfere at the time because us arguing while one girl and inevitably the other cried wasn't exactly helpful. After that I started waiting until after all of the excitement of the emergency had passed by to bring it up, especially when the younger girl started intentionally falling or bumping into things. I'd try to tell her that making a huge deal out of every scrape was just making things worse, and the girls needed to figure out how to self-regulate and tell if they were actually hurt or not. She would accuse me of being callous and tell me she wasn't going to make our daughters feel helpless, hurt, and abandoned.
My fiancée came out days before our wedding. But that wasn't the worst part. She lied about me to everyone we knew, and now they've all turned their backs on me. My ex came out as a lesbian right before our wedding date. She then lied to everyone, and now they have all abandoned me. My ex came out as a lesbian right before our wedding date. She then lied to everyone, and now they have all abandoned me. It had been 7 solid years with Dana, and from the get-go she was open about her bisexuality. She'd shared stories about her past relationships with women before we became serious, and honestly, it never bothered me. It felt good, having that kind of honesty between us right from the start. Our relationship was never about fireworks or drama, but it was more like a steady flame. Sure, we had our share of disagreements, like her habit of leaving dishes in the sink or my tendency to work late without giving a heads up. We always found our way back, talking things through over late-night cups of coffee or early morning walks in the park near our apartment. The living together brought its own rhythm to our lives. We fell into comfortable routines, like how every Saturday morning we'd hit the local farmer's market, Dana beelining it to the fresh-cut flowers and me always picking up an extra loaf of sourdough from the baker. Evenings often found us in our little kitchen, Dana trying out new vegan recipes she'd found online while I played taste tester, or both of us curled up on the couch, binging on our latest Netflix obsession, or deep diving into playlists of newly discovered bands. Our relationship might not have been the stuff of grand romances, but it was real. It was the small moments, the quiet understanding, the shared smiles over inside jokes that nobody else got. It was in these moments that I saw a future with her, a lifetime of these small perfect snapshots. And after 7 years, it felt right to take the next step, to ask her to marry me, to officially build a life together. This wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment decision, it was one built on countless little moments that told me we were right for each other. After 7 years together, everything just seemed to line up perfectly. We were solid, emotionally and financially. We'd built a life together in our cozy 2-bedroom apartment surrounded by plants Dana loved to care for, and framed photos capturing our best moments. It felt like everything we did naturally synced, whether it was saving up for a dream vacation or just planning our weekly meals. We were a team, and I never doubted we were on the same track. So, deciding to propose felt like the most natural next step. I wanted everything to be perfect, to reflect the thoughtfulness and depth of our relationship. It took weeks of planning, selecting the right ring, a simple yet elegant band that I knew would suit her understated style, choosing the perfect day, and orchestrating a scenario that was intimate and personal. I chose the little art gallery where we had our first date, under the guise of a new exhibit I knew she wouldn't want to miss. The gallery was small and intimate, filled with soft lighting and the gentle hum of other visitors that gave it a lively yet private feel. As we walked through, discussing various pieces, my heart pounded with a mix of nerves and excitement. At the center of the gallery, beneath her favorite painting, a vibrant abstract piece that always seemed to ignite her passion for art, I stopped. The moment felt suspended in time as I reached into my pocket, feeling the cool metal of the ring box. I got down on one knee, and her hands flew to her mouth in surprise. "Will you marry me?" The words felt both monumental and terrifyingly fragile in the air between us. Her eyes, always so full of warmth and understanding, widened as she hesitated. That moment of hesitation felt like an eternity, stretching out painfully long. I could see the conflict pass through her gaze, and my heart sank a little with uncertainty. But then, softly, almost a whisper, she said, "Yes." The glow of our engagement should have filled those next few days with joy and excited planning. In many ways, it did. Our friends were ecstatic, their faces lighting up as they tossed around ideas for the wedding. Beachside ceremonies, rustic barn venues, even a destination wedding in Italy. The enthusiasm was contagious, and it carried me along for a while, but something nagged at me. An undercurrent of unease that I just couldn't shake. It started with Dana's hesitation. That moment, as brief as it was, planted a seed of doubt in my mind. Why did she hesitate? I couldn't help but ask her later that evening as we lay in bed, the light from the street lamps casting soft shadows across our room. "I was nervous," she said simply, her voice steady but her body tense beside me. I wanted to believe her, to write it off as pre-proposal jitters, but it felt like there was something more she wasn't saying. I pushed a little, but she shut down the conversation with a kiss and whispered, "Let's just enjoy this moment." So I let it go, not wanting to spoil the brief peace we had. But then there were her parents. We visited them the next day to share our news. I expected joy, or at least a warm embrace of congratulations. Instead, I was met with strained smiles and hesitant congratulations. Her father's pat on my back was a bit too forceful, and her mother's eyes darted away too quickly when our gaze met. They were acting, putting on a show of happiness, but their eyes didn't match their expressions. This was not the reaction I expected from the people who should have been overjoyed for their daughter. Their odd behavior only added layers to my unease. Why would they fake their happiness? What was making them hold back? The questions multiplied, swirling in my mind. I tried talking to Dana about it, pointing out how off her parents seemed. "They're just surprised, that's all. They'll come around," she said, brushing it off too quickly, too easily. Our friends' reaction stood in stark contrast. They were genuinely thrilled, already diving into planning and celebrations. Their genuine excitement was a relief, but it also made the falseness of her parents' reactions even more stark and troubling. It felt like I was living in two realities. One where our engagement was the best news ever, and another shadowed by hidden truths and half-hearted congratulations. The mixture of reactions left me feeling off balance. I was caught between the joy of our friends and the unsettling response from her parents. It should have been one of the happiest times of our lives, but instead, I found myself looking for clues, for any sign of what was really going on beneath the surface. But then, that day came. A day that seemed no different from any other. I walked through our front door after a long day at work, only instead of finding Dana in the kitchen, or curled up on the sofa with a book as I would on any other day, she was standing by the door, her posture tense, a suitcase at her feet. My heart sank at the sight. "What's going on, Dana?" I asked, my voice steady despite the dread beginning to curl inside me. Dana looked at me, her eyes not holding the warmth I was used to but a somber resolve instead. "Listen, I know this is going to be hard for you," she started, her voice trembling slightly, "but I'm not bisexual. I'm lesbian." The words hung in the air between us, heavy and cold. My parents knew this for 2 years, and this is why they weren't happy and were faking it. "Please, I beg you, do not make this difficult. Just let me leave. Don't cry, don't beg, and don't scream. Let's just let things go like adults." She continued, her voice growing firmer with each word. I stood there, frozen, as she picked up her bag and walked past me, not once looking back. The front door closed with a click that echoed through the empty apartment. The silence was suffocating. I didn't move, didn't call out to her. I couldn't. The shock pinned me in place, my mind racing yet blank, unable to process the sudden void Dana left in her wake. For what felt like an eternity, I stood there, grappling with a torrent of emotions. Betrayal, confusion, heartache, each one hit me harder than the last. How could the person I loved, the person I was about to marry, keep something like this from me? Not something to see. How could she leave so suddenly, so coldly, as if our years together meant nothing? Dana, the woman I thought I knew, the woman I planned a life with, had vanished, leaving behind a stranger with her face. The realization was brutal, a sharp pain that felt both numbing and searing at the same time. As the minutes ticked by, the initial shock slowly morphed into a sense of loss. The future we had envisioned together, our shared dreams and plans, dissolved right before my eyes. 3 months had crawled by since Dana left. During these months, not a single text, call, or knock on the door came. But it was as if I had vanished from the lives of those I considered close. Dana had blocked me the very day she left, and her parents, who once welcomed me into their home, didn't bother to reach out. Our friends, mutual and otherwise, remained silent. Their social media posts were filled with praise for Dana, celebrating her bravery and authenticity. Each post was a dagger, reminding me of my own isolation. My health deteriorated rapidly. The stress and emotional turmoil manifested physically. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I was hospitalized 3 times in those 3 months. Each visit was a blur of IV drips, sympathetic nurses, and doctors advising me to take it easy, as if my body's betrayal was something I could moderate with a bit of rest. The concern of the hospital staff only highlighted the indifference from those I used to call friends and family. It was a stark, painful contrast to the emptiness of my phone's notifications. Work became my only routine, the only thing that kept me anchored to some semblance of normality. I'd drag myself there in the mornings, the tasks a welcome distraction, but leaving only to return to an empty home where the quiet was suffocating. Meanwhile, Dana's journey was public, her narrative one of overcoming and authenticity. I couldn't escape it. Every time I logged online, there it was, the story of how she had finally found herself. The world praised her, admired her courage, while I became a ghost in my own life, unseen and unmissed. It wasn't just the breakup that hurt. It was the total abandonment, the erasure of my existence from the lives of those I loved. Right now, the anger seems too heavy to carry, too dense to ignite. So, I'm just floored by the disbelief, how swiftly my world turned upside down, and how everyone I thought I could lean on simply vanished. I wander through my apartment now. It's all a painful reminder of what was and what can never be again. And it's not just the breakup. It's the total silence from everyone else. Not a single call or message asking if I'm okay. It's as if I ceased to exist, as if my pain is less valid, less important. It's all about her. Her courage, her journey, her authenticity. You know what? Pluck them all. They showed their true colors, all right? They're all in awe of her, while I'm shattered here, ignored like I meant nothing. And pluck my ex for painting this picture, for leaving me stranded in the wake of her self-discovery, without a second thought. I've tried to wrap my head around it, tried to find some sliver of understanding or closure, but there's none, just this raw, gnawing emptiness where trust and love used to live. I trusted her with my heart, my future. And our friends, I thought they were our friends, but turns out I was just a +1, easily uninvited when the narrative didn't need me anymore. So yeah, I'm beyond angry. I'm just lost, stripped of my role in my own life story, wondering if I ever really mattered at all. It's a hard pill to swallow, realizing that you might have always been the expendable one. But maybe this is the wake-up call I needed, a brutal shove out of naivety. From here on out, it's about finding my footing again, figuring out who I am when I'm not part of us. So, but as for them, they can keep their shallow concerns and their superficial celebrations. I'm done. Update. So here we go again, like in GTA San Andreas. But this time is more painful and shocking at the same time, cause today and yesterday night a lot happened. Like some of you folks said, somehow one of my ex-friends saw my post on TikTok, and the absolute mess started and is still going on right now. It was late in the evening, just another night of me trying to distract myself with old movies and leftover takeout, when my phone buzzed. Sorry. The screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen in months, Paul. Seeing his name made my stomach twist. After everything, what could he possibly want? I answered hesitantly. Paul? Hey, he started, his voice awkward, unsure. Unshi. I saw your post, the one where you mentioned Dana. And man, I didn't know. We didn't know. I tensed, bracing myself for what was coming. It felt like stepping back into a storm I thought had passed. Know what? I managed, though I wasn't sure I wanted to hear the answer. Paul sighed heavily on the other end. Dana told us all a different story, he admitted. She said when she came out to you, you lost it, tried to hurt her and then threatened her if she left. She made us promise not to reach out, told us you were dangerous. My breath caught in my throat. The accusations were like a punch to the gut. How could she say those things about me? My confusion and hurt must have been palpable, because Paul quickly added, but man, after reading your post, we pressed her on it. She broke down and admitted that she lied about everything. She was scared, she said. Scared of losing us as friends if we knew the truth. The room felt suddenly colder, the shadows deeper. I slumped back against the sofa, the weight of months of isolation and betrayal hitting me all at once. So you all believed her, just like that. My voice was barely a whisper, a mix of disbelief and sorrow weaving through the words. Yeah, and I can't tell you how sorry I am. We should have reached out to you, should have asked your side of things. We screwed up, big time. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with the weight of lost time and broken trust. The news that Dana had lied about such serious accusations was both a vindication and a new kind of heartbreak. How? Why would she do that? And why did everyone just believe her without a second thought about me? Paul's next words pulled me back from the edge of those spiraling thoughts. A bunch of us want to make it right, if you'll let us. As I hung up the phone, the screen dim now, the silence of the apartment felt a little less oppressive. The aftermath of Paul's call was like breaking the dam that had held back months of silence. The days following the revelation were a whirlwind of emotions and decisions. My phone, once a reminder of isolation, was now incessantly active with messages of regret and apologies from friends who had deserted me based on Dana's lies. See. Among these messages was one from Dana herself, begging for forgiveness and admitting her deceit had been driven by fear of losing her friends. It was a lot to process. The apologies from friends and Dana's confession, each unfolding in the glow of my phone screen in the dimly lit corners of my once shared apartment. Then came the unexpected message from Mary, Dana's current girlfriend, who was blindsided by the whole situation. Her apology was mixed with confusion and hurt. She had known Dana for a year yet had only heard of me as a roommate. This detail stung sharply. It was disorienting to grasp just how extensively Dana had rewritten our shared past to fit her new narrative. The gravity of the deceit weighed heavily on me, and in a moment fueled by a mixture of hurt and the desire for some control over the chaos, I decided to confront the whole situation head-on. I created a new group chat, including Dana, Mary, Paul, and the rest of my friends who had been misled. The digital room felt charged with tension, a virtual stand-in for the confrontation that needed to happen. In the group, I laid it all out plainly. I'm not changing my mind about forgiving what happened, not yet. I started, the words stark against the backdrop of their previous silence. I've even considered legal action against Dana for defamation. I added, my statement partly true. The idea of suing her had flickered in my thoughts, not fully formed, but a reflection of the deep hurt and the drastic measures I felt pushed towards. I continued, if you all truly cared about me, wouldn't at least one of you have reached out to confirm the story, to ask my side? My words were not just a question but a mirror, reflecting back their own actions, or lack thereof. And then I shared more about Dana that I had kept private, details that painted a fuller picture of the deceit. With each message sent, I felt a small release, a venting of months of pent-up frustration and sadness. After ensuring my piece was heard, I blocked them all. It was a drastic step, but necessary for me to start healing, to cut out the voices that had so easily believed the worst in me. The last few weeks have felt like being stuck in a relentless storm. No matter how many numbers I block, new texts and calls flood in. Friends, or who I thought were friends, are now strangers reaching out through different numbers, their words swinging between apologies and accusations, and even involving people I don't know to pass their messages. But it's relentless and exhausting. Every buzz of my phone spikes my anxiety, turning what was once a simple ringtone into a trigger. It's unreal, the extent of this chaos. I keep telling myself this has to be some twisted nightmare, that no one actually lives through this kind of drama. But every new message, every unknown caller ID flashing on my phone screen, drags me back to the harsh reality that this is indeed my life now. It's all true and there's no waking up from it. Today I saw a therapist. I sat in a quiet, softly lit room that felt a million miles away from the turmoil of my life. It was supposed to be just about dealing with Dana's betrayal and the fallout with my friends, but it turned into so much more. Once I started talking, old wounds opened up. Wounds I hadn't even admitted were there. The deaths of my parents and my sister, events that I had boxed up and stored deep within, surfaced with overwhelming force. I cried. Not just a few tears, but deep heaving sobs that shook my whole body. I cried for everything that's happened, for everything I lost, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel alone with my pain. The therapist listened, her presence calm and accepting, a stark contrast to the judgment and betrayal I'd become accustomed to. Leaving her office, I felt drained but strangely lighter. It's clear to me now that this is just the beginning of a long journey. A journey to heal not just from the recent betrayals, but also from the grief I've carried for years, buried under layers of daily survival and distraction. I forgot to write this little part, but the quick resume is that I never had a good relationship with Dana's parents. So we never went along well because they always said that I wasn't the right guy for their daughter. So I never cared about them. But this time they asked me to think wisely and to not sue Dana because she was afraid, and they even justified her actions. That's all, and in fact, I wasn't surprised about their reaction to the news of marrying her. A month has passed since my first post, and here I'm again. I know that I promised to be here again when things would be better, and I hoped for that very much, but unfortunately my life isn't better at all, and things are always going worse than I expected. I'm gonna talk like I talk with my therapist cause a little bit you all are like my therapist, LOL. Every session with the therapist peels back layers I didn't even know were there. I entered therapy with the hope, maybe naive, that a few sessions would set me right, that I'd find a way to quickly navigate through the emotional wreckage Dana left behind. But it's turning out to be more complex, more grueling than I'd ever imagined. I find myself sitting in the same soft chair each week, the room always quiet, except for the subtle ticking of the clock and the occasional sounds of the city that drift through the window. These sessions are my safe space, yet they challenge me deeply. As I talk through my days and recount the events that have unfolded, I realize how much I've bottled up, not just recently but over years, decades even. I've started to cry. A lot. It's not just a tear or two, but a profound, shaking type of crying that comes from a place deep inside. I cry for my parents, who I lost too soon, and my little sister, whose laughter I can still hear if I let the silence linger long enough. I cry for what happened with Dana, how her deception cut so deep, and for my friends who turned their backs when I needed them the most, treating me like an afterthought, not the person they had known for years. The therapist listens, her notes quiet, her nods encouraging, but the work is mine to do. Each session, each revelation, it feels like I'm trying to climb out of a deep well, the walls damp and mossy, my hands slipping every time I think I've found a new hold. It's frustrating, and sometimes I leave feeling worse than when I entered. But there's also a glimmer of hope, an understanding that this is a process, and it's supposed to be hard. When you're unpacking a lot of buried emotions, she tells me, her voice always steady, it's okay to feel overwhelmed. Healing isn't linear. These words have become a mantra for me on the hardest days. I know I'm not an expert at any of this. I can't neatly dissect my feelings or predict how long it will take to feel whole again. It's a journey without a clear map, filled with unexpected turns and setbacks. But I'm learning about grief, about betrayal, about the strength it takes to rebuild trust, not just in others, but in myself. This isn't the quick fix I hoped for. It's slower, messier, more painful. Yet I cling to the moments of clarity, the small victories when I can talk about my sister without a breakdown, or when I can reflect on Dana's actions without feeling that deep, dark anger. After losing my parents, and then my little sister, the world seemed to shrink down to a pinpoint of grief that was almost unbearable. When Dana came into my life, it was like a breath of fresh air sweeping through a long sealed room. She became my focus, my future, someone to build a new kind of family with, a chance to start over and create a life filled with the happiness and stability I had lost so suddenly. I poured everything into our relationship. Every dinner cooked, every date night planned, every small surprise was a brick in the foundation of the new life I envisioned for us. I wanted her to feel loved, not just ordinarily loved, but deeply cherished. I made sure to listen to her dreams, support her ambitions, and be there whenever she needed someone to lean on. Dana wasn't just my partner, she was my confidant, the one person who really knew every facet of me, my vulnerabilities, my deepest fears, and my hopes. In my heart, Dana filled a space that had been hollowed out by loss. She was my soft spot, the person whose happiness became synonymous with my own. Over the years, this bond only deepened, rooted in countless shared moments and private jokes, the kind that weave two lives inseparably together. But what perhaps wasn't clear in everything I've shared before is the depth of my commitment to her. Every plan for the future, every dream about what lay ahead included her. She wasn't just part of my life, she was central to every part of my vision for the future. This is why the betrayal cut so deeply, why it felt not just like a personal loss, but like losing a part of myself. When she left, it wasn't just a partner walking out the door. It was as if she took away the very essence of the family I had tried to rebuild. When I had tried to rebuild. Komiad, Bailey, Oshi, Dorimian, Bazosigas Po. The promise of a new life, a new beginning that had once seemed so bright and certain, crumbled into uncertainty and disillusionment. Now left in the wake of her departure, I grapple not only with the pain of her betrayal, but with the reality of being alone again, confronted with the echoes of past losses. It's a strange, hollow feeling to realize that the person you trusted with your deepest self, the person you believed would never hurt you, was the one who left the deepest cut. But a journey to heal from this isn't just about moving past a broken relationship. It's about reconstructing my sense of trust and understanding what family and love mean to me now. Coming back from the army was like stepping into a different world. After years of structured days, where the stakes were life and death, the transition to civilian life felt disorienting, quiet and mundane. I was carrying more than just my duffel bag home. I had memories and traumas tucked away, the kind that don't just fade with time, or can be left at the doorstep. It was during this turbulent phase of readjustment that I met Dana. She entered my life when the echoes of my military service were still loud in my mind, a time when I was trying to find who I was outside of a uniform. She saw past the facade I presented to the world, the decorated veteran with medals and a straight posture. Dana saw the vulnerabilities, the night terrors, the silent moments of reflection that consumed me. And rather than turning away, she stepped closer, choosing to understand and share the burden of my hidden battles. It was love at first sight, not just in the romantic sense but in a profound, life-altering way. Dana represented hope, a beacon in the fog of my transition. Her presence brought a sense of normalcy and peace that had eluded me since my return. I was enchanted, not just by her beauty but by her compassion and unwavering support. So yes, perhaps it was naive, but I believed in the fairy tale she represented. Dana was the one for me, the person who could make the concept of home feel real again, not just a place, but a state of being. In her, I saw the potential to rebuild the family I had lost, to create a future filled with laughter and love, a stark contrast to the solitude and solemnity of my past. That belief in our future was what fueled every decision, every sacrifice. I poured all of my hopes into our relationship, trusting that this was the path to a new beginning, to a life where the shadows of war and loss would be replaced by shared happiness and mutual growth. Each moment with her reinforced this dream, building up an image of what could be if we continued to walk this path together. Reflecting on the past year, I've come to realize that life doesn't always unfold as planned, and sometimes the most painful experiences carry the most profound lessons. Living through the whirlwind of betrayal, abandonment, and the subsequent journey of self-discovery has taught me more than any single moment of happiness ever could.